In this video, we are going to create an environment for our runner game, so it appears that we are infinitely running forward, but what's actually happening is that everything is going towards us. We are just standing still and the cube is rotating. So this way we can create this illusion of infinite runner. So this video will be just about the environment and few simple scripts. Let's get into it. Let's start by initializing our new project. In Unity Hub, click New Project. We'll choose here the type of the project. We'll go with a 3D built-in render pipeline. We'll choose the project name. Let's go with I will choose a simple runner name. Simple-runner. Okay, create a project. This will set it up very shortly. And after that, we'll be working on the environment. We'll create a runway on which the player will be running, or actually we will have only simple cube, so there will be not really running, but the rolling, and we'll create some basic stuff. Okay, project is getting initialized. I will just make this a little bit more narrow on the left side, the hierarchy is a little bit smaller, and here we are. Okay, so here we are going to create a plane. So right click here in the scene, create here a 3D object, go with a plane. Okay, please place the plane on the coordinates 0, 0, 0. So everything 0, 0, 0, 0. So it will be this way. Now on this plane, we will create a player. So player will be simple cube. So go right click here, create here a 3D object, create here a cube, and call this cube player. And let's place it on 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, like this. You can see when you will go closer, the cube is halfway in the plane. So we will increase y coordinate to 0.5, 0.5, like this. Okay, cube is now on the plane. So this will be the runway. We'll be facing this direction. So we will be facing the direction of this blue axis. So this is the Z direction. That's how we'll be moving. That's how the player will be moving back and forth. We will be not moving the player in this game, but the object will be coming in this direction, the Z direction. So the player will be facing this, and player will be moving right and left, and up and down. Okay, so yeah, positions 0, 0.5, 0. And now we will increase the length of this plane. So we'll select the plane in the hierarchy, and we will increase the scale in the Z. Okay, they should do this. Okay, so this will be increasing the Z. Okay, we will increase it how you want. Okay, so whatever works for you. Let's say 25, 30 like this. It can be. Okay, even more. Okay, so that's how it looks like. So let's imagine the camera will be facing this way. All right, so we will see the plane is ending up there. We can make it even longer if you want. We can make it like 60. Doesn't really matter, 60. So it will be a really long runway. Okay, we will set up the camera, how we want to face it, how we want to face the player. Okay, so we'll click the main camera, and you see it how it's facing here. If you want to see it on one screen, just go to the game view and move this game view next to your scene view, and now you can see the game and the scene view side by side. So that's how the game will look like when you will start playing the game. So when I will play the game, press this arrow, that's how it will look like, this way. Okay, so let's set up the camera so it looks more natural. Go to click on the camera in the hierarchy and just play with it. So let's increase the Y axis. So I'm increasing the Y like this. Let's say 3. Increase the Z. It's closer to the cube. All right. So let's say -7 like this, and increase the rotation on the X. So maybe like this. All right. So 10 rotation, and move it closer to the player even. So let's go with a Z like this maybe. All right. Okay. I think maybe a little bit more on the back. Let's go -8. You need to just experiment with this a little bit. Increase even Y more. All right, let's say 4. And maybe even increase rotation even a little bit more to 12. And move it a little bit closer, let's say -7. Okay, I'm happy with this. However, I'm not happy how I am seeing my game view. Or actually, it's not that bad. We could also play with the camera field of view. We could even decrease or increase field of view, or we can just keep it 60 as we have currently. All right. Yeah, I think I'll keep it 60 for now. We can play with the settings later. So far, it's good. Okay, so we can move the game view back where it was. We can play this game, and that's how it will look like. Let's change the colors of the cube and the plane. Okay, so for this, we'll go to our assets down here in our project view. We'll create here a new folder. Create a new folder. Let's call it runner_game. So this will be the main folder for our game, runner game. In this folder, we will create a new folder, and we'll call it materials. Okay, materials. And in materials folder, we'll create a new file. So just right click here, create, and click here material, and we'll call this material player, and create a new material. So again, a new material, and call this material plane. Just some color for the plane, doesn't really matter. Let's go with the dark gray one, and go with the player, let's say blue one. So some blue one, doesn't really matter. Okay, and now drag the plane into the plane, or actually we need to click on the plane first, go to the scene view. Okay, so make sure you're in the scene view, and you can drag the plane on the plane like this, and it should change it. Or if you want to change it when you will inspect the plane object, here you have mesh renderer on the right side, and mesh renderer you have a materials, and you need to replace this element 0 with your material plane. So you can just drag this play into the plane or player here, and it will change the material you can see. But let's drag their plane, and on the player, drag the player. So it looks this way. Okay, so we have here our player and our runaway. We'll change the colors a little bit. So click here on the plane, make it a little bit lighter. Let's say like this light cream color. I would go with this one here. You can see D7, D7, D7. Okay, and the metallic and smoothness, we can decrease the smoothness or increase the smoothness, whatever you prefer. So this will affect how the light is reflected in the plane. So either this or just simply this. We can just decrease the smoothness, or maybe you want to increase metallic, decrease metallic, whatever you want. I'm happy with this, smoothness 0 and metallic 0. I'll click on the player, material, and I will also do the smoothness the same. I'll just decrease the smoothness. Okay. And that's how it looks like. So when we'll play the game, this is how it will look like. Okay, now we want to create effect that the player is moving. We will be not moving the player, but we'll be moving the objects that there will be in the environment. So we'll create here lines that will be moving along the z-axis. So on the left side, I will create a new folder. I will call it movable, and I will create here a new object. So create here not empty, but a 3D object, cube, and call it line like this. So this will be our cube. Place it on the 0, 0, 0, 0, so you can see it. Where is this? Our movable game object is itself on the wrong coordinates. You can see the coordinates on the right side. Please move it to the 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. So movable will be here, and then the line placed at the 0, 0, 0. So all of zeros movable will be all zeros, and line will be all zeros. Now you have it here, and here will be your line. Make the scale smaller. Let's decrease the scale of this to 0.2, 0.2, 0.2, like this. So it's very small cube. Okay. Change the color of this line to something else, some dark color, gray color. So create here a new material in the materials folder. Right click here, create a new material, and call it line. Create here some dark color, so darkish like this. Also decrease the smoothness and drag the align color to this cube like this. Drag this cube and move it down here All right, somewhere in front of the player, like this. Increase the scale at the Z. So it will be something like this. Let's say 3. 3 is fine. And place it on the left side of the plane, like this. So we can see the border of our plane, basically. It can be this way here. Okay, so this will be the line or the rails in which the player will be moving in. You can imagine it will be something like this. It will be like this. I will just, for a second, I will copy it. You don't need to do this, but it will be something like this, and this will be the runways that will be actually moving. I'll just copy them like this. All right. You don't need to do this still. I'll remove it very shortly, but you can imagine this will look something like this. Okay, in this view, and what will be moving will be the lines. So player will be still, but his lines will be moving towards the player. So we will create this effect of the movement, that this will be moving towards the player. You can imagine it will be moving like this. It will be moving towards the player, and this will create this effect of the movement. Okay, I will revert everything what I've done here. I will just create here this one line as we had before. This one line. Okay, and I will be extending it. Okay, so while the line is selected, I will press Ctrl D or Command D to duplicate it, and I will move it a little bit forward. Okay, but how much forward you want to play it every time? First, select your first line, this one here, and let's select the X position to -5, let's say 0, and Z will be 3. Let me look at this. Yeah, that's okay. All right, and this one we will move 5 units more. So actually I will remove this, and I'll select the first line, and I will duplicate it again. Okay, and I will just move it along the Z-axis, and I will place the Z to be 8. Okay, so each line will be 5 units from each other. So you can see this one here, Z is 3, and this one here, Z is 8. Okay, I can actually move it to the better coordinates. I will move this first line at the Z of 0, and the second line at the Z5. Okay, and now I can duplicate the new line here. So again, I will select this one here, Ctrl D, duplicate it, and we'll move this to the Z10. Okay, I will be incrementing this by 5 each time I duplicate. So I'll duplicate this, I will write here 15, and so on and so on. So let's do it. Okay, so move it now 20. This one, oops, I need to duplicate. So this one to 25, and let's go like this. Okay, 30, duplicate, 35. Okay, we'll go like this until 70. So this will be 55. And this one will be 70. Oops. Okay, so 70. Perfect. Now, this is created. Let me go to the game view so I can actually see how it looks like. Okay, maybe we can even increase the scale of these lines because they are a little bit small. So I will select all the lines here. Just select the first line, hold the Shift key and select all of this, and increase the scale to 0.3, 0.3. Okay, this is a little bit better when they are bigger. I'm happy with the number of the lines. So actually what I will do here, I will create one empty game object and I will move all of the lines there. Okay, so let's create here a new empty object. Let's call it line container, line underscore container. Make sure it's at the 0, 0, 0 positions and move all of the lines like you have them, select them, all of them, and move them into line container. Go back to your scene view. Now you can just move the line container. Okay, and this will be moving all the lines. Okay, so I'll select the line container. All right, and it will be moving all of the lines. One thing I'm not happy about is about the line container, the center or pivot position here is here. So you can see it's not really centered out. If this is happening to you, that this position is different than your lines here, we need to do a few adjustments. So place the line as they were here on the left side, and all of these lines we will select all of them, and we will change the X position. So currently it's -5, you see. I will change it to 0. Okay, and now when I will select the line container position is here. Okay, it's positioned to the center of the first line when you select the line container, and I can select nicely the entire container and I can move it to the left side. Okay, and I can just place it here. So that's how it should look like. Okay, now we will going to duplicate line containers and we'll be moving it along the plane. So we can close it actually. We have line container, just duplicate line container, Control D, and move it some units to the right side. How many units? Actually, the first line container, you can see I like to go with the rounded values. You can see now the value for the X position is -4.96. I want to have it just -5. So the line container we have copied, we will move the X position to somehow like, I think it can be like here, -2. -2 like this. So we'll be moving again 3 units along the X axis. So this will be -2. I will copy this line container, and this will be 1, like this. All right, I'll move this line container, and this will be 4, like this. And yeah, that's enough. Okay, so we have everything at the place. You can see our plane is not matching really now. The width of the plane is not matching this. So I will select the plane, and I will change the scale at the X. We need to decrease the X scale, let's say 0.9, let's say, and just move it a little bit to the left side, like this. Okay. Also, the player position is not now really in the middle of this. So I will change the player position to be in middle. So this, I think, this will be -0.5, and now it's in middle. Now it's nicely centered. Okay, so when I click here in the game view, this looks like this. You can see the camera is not very nicely now, so we need to change the camera. So please click on the main camera, and the X position will be also -0.5. So now this looks more centered. Okay, so the X position 0.5 is matching also the player position. Oh, actually, player position is -0.35. Let's write here -0.5. Now I'm clicking the plane. So click on the player, and yeah, -0.5. That's correct. And the main camera -0.5. Again, if you want to change it a little bit, maybe you want to move the main camera closer to the player, you can do so. Just change the Z. Maybe even a little bit lower, maybe. Like this. And move the Z even more. Maybe like this. Okay, so yeah, that's a good enough view. Perfect. And now, as I mentioned before, now we can just move the movable container to create the effect that the player is moving. So when I will select the movable on the left side, I will be changing the Z. You can see it looks like the player is moving when I will be changing the Z position. Okay, perfect. Okay, so what we are going to do now, we are going to actually move these movable things, these line containers, towards the player. I'll do one final adjustment. All of these lines we have here, these line containers, I will move them, and I will create a child game object. So select the movable on the left side, create empty game object, and call it simple lines, and copy all the line containers into the lines like this. So it looks this way. So now we have the lines that wrapping all of this. Perfect. Okay. Now we are going to create a new. Now we're going to create a script, and we'll be moving all these lines from the code. So I'll create here a new game object, empty one. It doesn't matter where it is in our game view, and we'll call it a game manager. Game_manager. All right, And we'll create here a new component, and we'll call it game manager. And we'll click here new script. Okay, create new script. Now this will recompile, and we will open this. So I'll click here these three dots, and I will click here edit script. So this will open my coding editor with this script. Before we'll be doing any things here, we will be moving the script into the different folder. So you can see the game manager CS is in the assets folder. I want to, in my runner game, actually we can do it in a hierarchy because it will be easier to read. Go to runner game, and you have materials here. Create here a new file, new folder, and let's call it scripts, like this. And in this scripts folder, I will be moving my file, my CS file. So back to the code, and I will copy this game manager, and I will move it to the script. So I will open the runner game, and I will move it into the scripts folder and move. Okay, so now game manager is in the scripts folder. Perfect. Okay, so here we want to move this movable container towards the player. These movables, we want to move these lines, we would like to move towards the player. So first I will create here a new serializable field. Okay, private transform. I will call it movable container. All right. Then I will create here a private variable. This will be transform array, and it will be called movable. So it will be the single object will be moving. Okay, it will be array of movables. And then I will create here also one more serialize field, and it will be how fast they should be moving. So private float, and it will be movement speed or base speed or move speed, and I will initialize it to 1.0 float units. Okay, so we have a movables, we have the base speed. All right, these comments we can remove, we don't need them. And in the start script here, now I will get all of the children from the movable container. So I will write here int child count, and I will get here movable container child count. Now I will initialize the arrays. So these movables will be the size of our child count. So movables equal a new transform array of the length of the child count. Now we will iterate over it. So int I is equal to 0, I is smaller than child count, I plus plus. All right. And then I will create them movables, and I will movables at the index of I will get the child from the movable container. So get child and the I. So what this will do, basically, it will get all of these lines. So from the movable container, we will get this lines game object, and we'll add it to the array. So game manager, select the game manager, and you can see here movable container and a base speed. And get your movable container like this, and get it to the field movable container. So drag and drop it into the movable. So when you select it, you can see the movable is there. Base speed can stay, let's say 2. Okay, now we'll be moving it, all right? So go here, and in your update, all right, go over all of your movables. So go here now with the for each loop. Get right here var movable in underscore movables, like this, and get here and adjust here movable transform position like this. Right here new vector tree, and we'll be adjusting the z position. So we will leave the x and y position as it is. So movable and transform position x. We will copy it over, and we'll write here y. And what will be changing will be the z position. So the z position will be changed. So I will copy this. I will write here z plus time, delta time plus, or multiplied rather, by the base speed. Okay? And this should move the game objects. So when you will save this, go back to your game, and when you will play the game, this should start moving towards you, actually away from you. Okay, we need to inverse the z position. Okay, get back to your game code, and here as you are writing time position z plus time delta, write here minus time delta multiplied by the base speed. Let's save this. Now it should be moving towards you. All right, and now it looks like the player is moving very, very slowly. But actually the other game objects are moving towards the player. We can increase it, let's say, to 5, or 6 even, and it will be moving much faster. Okay, it is starting to look very good. But once we will reach out the end position here, you can see there is quite lots of empty space, and now it doesn't look that great anymore. So what are we going to do? We have here the lines, right? This game object. We will duplicate the entire lines. Okay, so please click your lines and duplicate it. So you have a lines, and let's say lines 2, and these ones I will call lines 1. Okay, so we have lines 1, lines 2, and these lines 2 will move away from the lines 1. So move it on the Z axis. Let's say at the Z will be here 75 like this. Okay. So the first lines has these coordinates. The second lines has this x, y, and z 75. So now we have just 2 lines. And what are we going to do? We'll be moving both of these lines towards the player. So both of them will be moving towards the player, like this. But once the one of the lines will cross some threshold of the z location, they will be transported back to the beginning position. I will show you what I mean by that. We'll create here 2 new game objects. Okay, so create here empty. Or actually, let's create it as a cube so we can see them in the game view. So create 3D object, cube, and initialize it to position 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay? And we can increase this y to 0.5. Let's move it a little bit behind the player. Let's say like this, when the z will be -4. And I will call this cube Despawn position. Despawn underscore position. Okay? So this will be the Despawn position. Now, I'll create a spawn position. So I'll copy the Despawn position, and I will move it to the Z of 75. And this will be, here will be my spawn position. Okay? So this will be my spawn position. I will call it spawn position. Spawn position. Okay. So we have this spawn position and spawn position, and all of these both transforms add to the game manager. So go to the game manager, create here 2 new serialized fields. So I'll copy just this one here. And I will call this spawn position, M spawn position, and serialized field for this spawn position, this spawn position. Okay? Save this, get back here, and move this 2 game objects into your game manager. So select your game manager and copy or select the spawn position and drag it to the spawn position field, and get the despawn position and drag it to the despawn position field. Perfect. So now what's the plan here is, as we'll be moving the line, so this line's 1, and as soon as they will cross specific threshold, let's say this z coordinate of the despawn position, we'll be despawning them and we'll be moving them into the spawn position coordinate. But actually this will not work that good now, because as we'll be moving here, you can see when this is the origin point here of this entire object. When I will be moving this, I will be starting spawning already here. When this will cross this cube, I will be starting despawning it already here, which is not good because we would like to go over the entire game object. So what I can do here, these lines 1 I'll select and I will rotate them. So on the rotation here, not X, but a Y rotation, we can change the rotation to -180 or just 180, and this will revert it. Okay? So now they are reversed. Do the same with the lines 2. Click the lines 2, and right here, Y position 180, like this. Okay, now they are reversed, both of them. Now select the lines 2 and lines 1 at once and move them. So just move them to the right side, so it looks like this. Okay, somehow like this. Now they are not matching, you can see the lines here, so we can just move them a little bit to the left side, this way, and adjust the exposition a little bit, yeah, like this, let's say -1. Okay, and now we can adjust now we can imagine I will select the line 1, again, these positions I don't like very much. Here is a 71.8 at the Z, and line 2 is the 146.8. I would like to go with a round number, so this will be 70, and this one will be 145, like this. Okay, so we have a 145 and the 70 position. Perfect. Now let's play the game and let's see if this will be working as intended. And yeah, it's still moving towards the player. Perfect. Now, we are going to pass the threshold. Okay, so let's go to our code. And as we'll be moving our movable, so it's right here, if statement. If the movable transform position, Z position, is smaller or equal to the despawn point, so despawn point Z coordinate, then we would like to change the position of the movable. So let's write here movable transform position equal new vector 3, and we'll be moving it to the movable transform position X. So this will all stay the same. X and Y position will stay the same. All right, position Y. But we'll be changing the Z position, and the Z position will be equal to the spawn point position Z. Spawn point spawn position transform. Why are we calling it spawn position actually? Spawn position, this spawn position. Okay, let's change it to the vectors. Let's call it this vector 3, and also this spawn position will be changing the type to vector 3. That will be better. So will be the spawn position Z here. Spawn position Z, and here. Okay, so when we'll be crossing the threshold of this spawn position, we'll be moving to the spawn position. Save this. And I will just check if my positions will be correctly set. So this spawn position, this spawn point can stay as it is. And my spawn position, Z will be, let me verify, let's click on the lines 1. Z is here 70. So go to the spawn position and also select here Z70, like this. So the lines and the spawn position are matching the Z position, 70, 70. Okay, now you can save this and you can run this code. And I'll go to the scene view so I can see it will be despawning. I can just increase in the game manager, I can go and increase the speed to 10 or to 15, and you can see it's not spawning. Okay, I know why it's not spawning correctly. Let me see. We are using the spawn position. So when this will move, towards the despawn position, it will go back to the spawn position. So it will be appearing at the same location, which is not good. Actually, this spawn position here, we should move all the way here, all the way back here, the same as the line 2 Z position. So when I will select the line 2, it's 145, and also my spawn position Z, I will select 145, like this. So the line 2 and the spawn position are matching. All right, and now we can just increase in the game manager, go ahead and increase the speed to, let's say, 15, and play this. And I want to see the scene view again, if this will be now correct. Okay, if this, something is definitely wrong. We are not getting respawns. So as soon as let me play it one more time. I want to see the line 1 Z position is decreasing. All right, but it's not moving away. Okay, so there is definitely some issue in the if statement. Let's get back to our code. And actually, it's correct. The if statement here is correct. So that what is incorrect, it will be in our game manager. Click here on the game manager, and you can see the spawn position. And this spawn position is the 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Both for the spawn position and this spawn position. So what are we going to do? Spawn position, I will just select my spawn point. Actually, we could leave it as we had it before as a transforms. I don't want to complicate stuff. Yeah, let's leave it as we had it before. Yeah, not as a vectors, but rather as a transform spawn position, and the same for the despawn position. Now we just need to change this. This spawn position will be dot position Z, like this, and here will be position Z this way. Let's save it. and we will drag it back to the game manager. So go to the game manager and spawn and despawn point positions. Let's drag them from the hierarchy. So despawn position, I will drag despawn position, and spawn position, I will drag to the spawn position. Now we can save this and we can start playing this. And let's go to the scene view, and now it should be going correctly. Yeah, you can see now they're running away and coming like this. Okay. Visually, it doesn't look that great from the game character perspective. So what we could do, the few options here, is to just increase the number of the lines. All right, so we don't see so it's so far away from the player, so we don't really see it. Or just maybe decrease the view until the player can see, or just place there some fog or something in the distance. But this can stay. This can stay. Okay. So we have a few options. What we could do would be to either go to the game view, so you can see it here, and click on the main camera. And as you have here these clipping planes near and far, change the far plane to 100 like this. And now you can play with this, how far you can see with your camera. You can see you can decrease it to the 0, and this will be on the player position. Or increase it and you can see how far the camera actually can see, and maybe you can play with it a little bit. So let's say 75, or let's say 85, and 85, and when you will play this game, it will look like this. Okay, so you will not be seeing as your game objects are spawning in the distance. And we can even increase it now, but while we are playing, we can even increase it. Okay, so that will be the first option. Let's play to some 200 value or something like this. And the other option will be go to lightning view. If you don't have a lightning view here, what you can do, go to the window, and here should be lightning. So window, where it is, rendering, and here in the rendering you have a lightning. Click it and select and drag and drop it next to the inspector on the up here. Go to environment, and here we can select fog. See here fog, and there is a little fog in the distance, you see. And we can see it also in the scene view here. There is a fog in the distance. If you go back to game view, so we'll see that from the player perspective. And we can change the color of this, or we can leave it gray, and we can increase the value of density, so 0.2, 0.3, 0.5, and so on. So if I leave it 0.5, it will look like this. Okay, you can see now we don't see this spawning because the fog is in front of the player. We can decrease it a little bit, 0.3 let's say, and 0.3 works equally good. We don't see really any despawning in the distance, or 0.2, and 0.2 still looks good. 0.1, 0.1 I can see the despawning a little bit in the distance. So we can go with the 0.2, and we can change the color or something. So I'll stop the game, I'll go to 0.02, and color we can just change to red or some bluish maybe, some fancy color, green or red, whatever works for you. Maybe some light grayish color like this maybe. Okay, completely up to you, and play the game now. And yeah, it looks good. We can also change the hail strength, and I don't know if it even does this. Flare fade speed and all these values, you can just play with these values, but they don't do much as I see. Okay, but that's my setup here. Okay, you can see now we are getting when we play the game, these objects are moving towards us, and it looks like that we are moving. We can actually move the player, so it also looks like the player is doing something, not only standing still here, so we can probably rotate the player. So you can imagine when you will select the player now, go to inspector, we can rotate the player at the x-axis, and we can increase the x-axis, so your player will be rotating like this somehow. Okay, so let's stop the game, and we will go to our coding editors. And here in the script, I will create a new file. I will call it player controller, playercontroller.cs. Create here public class player controller, and we'll be rotating the player. So we'll create here new serialize field, serialize field, we need to import here Unity engine. Using a Unity engine, we'll get here serialize field and private float, and it will be calling the rotation multiplier. Rotation multiplier. Let's initialize it to 0, let's set it to 1. And now we'll create here update function, update, or rather method. And we'll create here how the size of the rotation, what should be the rotation amount. So I'll create here float and we'll call it rotation amount, and this will be our roll rotation multiplier multiplied by the time, delta time. And we'll get here transform of our game object and call here rotate. This should be actually, we are missing one thing. We need to extend here mono behavior. Very important, mono behavior. Okay, and now access here transform and call here function rotate. All right, and provide here vector 3 left. All right. This will be the x. They will be rotating around the x-axis, the right or left. This is the x-axis. The right is the positive x-axis. Left is the negative x-axis, and the rotation amount. Okay. Go back to this view. Click on the player, and on the player, click here add component, and get here your player controller. And the player controller, you can increase the rotation multiplier because 1 will be super low. So get it to 100 and let's play the game. And it will look like this. And it increases more even, 360, let's say. And this is how it looks like. Kind of crazy, but I like it. It will be a very fast game, let's say. Okay, so let's increase it to 360, stop the game, get here 360, and okay, and that's how it looks like. So that it's really look like that we are moving forward with our cube, and everything is moving. The things are moving towards us, but it looks like that we are moving. Okay, and that's we have this can create this effect of the infinite scroller. We are infinitely moving because the objects around us are moving. We are just staying still, so we don't need to care about the environment much and these things, but we can focus on the game mechanics. Okay, so that was the first part, setting up the environment. This is the most boring part, actually. And in the next part, we'll get more into the coding. So that's the setup. If you want to get exactly the same setup as me, you can just download it from the GitHub repository or from the file included in the description of the video. And in the next lecture, we'll continue with the second part. Cheers!